Hi Richard, you okay? Oh. Hi Rich.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
I'm alright, you okay?
Yeah, can you hear me pretty good?
Yeah, we can hear you really well. Just to let you know,
Awesome.
you're myself, Ray, and my co-host Patrick, and obviously you're on the MMA Mental podcast.
Okay, perfect.
Hey, thanks for coming on, Rich.
No doubt, man.
Cool. Well, let's go straight in. Let's talk about the Bellator heavyweight tournament, which is, I think it's fair to say, has gone really well for you so far. So let's talk about your first fight in October against Mike Wessel. How did you feel going into the fight with Mike?
I felt extremely well. Did a lot of real hard work going into training camp. Obviously, missed that weight cut at light heavyweight, so I knew I was going to be coming in, what they saw as lighter and whatnot, because I was keeping my weight down for that one. But I felt very clean, very quick, so worked out real well.
And what did you looked into Mike? Had you studied him? What did you think were your strengths over his weaknesses going into that fight?
My strength was just doing everything that I knew I trained for. Realistically, I think I had him in every aspect of the game. Not to sound arrogant or rude, I really didn't see anything that he had as a very strong point. He seemed pretty well rounded at not a real exceptional game in any certain area.
And obviously, I think that played out in the fight because, again, we don't want to put Mike's effort down because obviously he came to fight and he did, but you made quite light work and you won impressively. And then you moved on to the semi-final and you faced a different kind of fighter and an aggressive fighter who came out swinging, and you obviously took on Thiago Santos. How did you feel going on into that fight?
I felt really good in training camp and everything else. Obviously, I came into that fight a little heavier. Prior to the fight, a little more sluggish, heavy on my legs. I wasn't too sure what was going on with it. All I could attribute it to was just the excessive weight for me at the 238 instead of obviously the first fight I weighed in at 233. One of my strongest points is that I'm a very athletic heavyweight. I don't need to be one of the guys that cuts to 265.
Obviously, the fight didn't start as well probably as what you'd like. Were you surprised by his power?
No, I actually, you get caught. I mean, you have 4-ounce gloves on. You get caught. It's not so much surprised by his power, just surprised I got caught. It was my fault. I know better than to throw the kicks right out the gates. He definitely left some openings for him to follow it up, and it was the opportunity obviously he was looking for, going into that. So I pretty much just gave him because I really wanted to push the pace in that fight. He talked a lot of smack going into it, so I really just wanted to start the fight off and put my hands on him, but he was staying away. First jab I threw, I got pretty long range and everything else, and he was nowhere near wanting to trade with the hands.
And obviously, we said you got caught, and he did rock you, but I think what you showed in that fight, which is somewhat, you can train your punches, you can train your kicks, you can train your grappling, but you can't train your heart and you can't train your chin. And I think it's fair to say in those first couple of minutes of the fight, you've shown a hell of a lot of heart and a hell of a lot of chin to come back.
Well, thank you, sir. We train really hard, man. A lot of what I've told people, about being a specialist is I'm in there with professional boxers getting hit by those guys. So you're in training and you're training to be able to come back in situations like that because you don't ever want to just be put down because you get caught. It's going to happen. It's mixed martial arts. There's going to be times, that you're going to get hit. I was definitely 3 fights prior, not being touched in 3 fights. It was a nice thing. It definitely helps with longevity of the career. But at the end of the day, sooner or later, you're going to get caught. And then a big question going into that one is, can I take a hit from one of the heavyweights? And not only did I, but you take it from one of the bigger heavyweights that cuts down to 265 to fight. And, it was just definitely nice to show people, there's a lot more to a skill set. When you say I'm well-rounded, you're absolutely right. It's not just your grappling, your punches, and your kicks. You have to, fill that in with some heart, with the ability to punch and stuff like that.
Yeah, and you certainly did. Can you talk us through the end of the fight? Because I think the turnaround of the fight was just so quick. It literally went from you being on back foot to the fight being over. So can you talk us through your view of how that fight ended?
Absolutely. Obviously, I got caught by Santos. He had a couple of good flurries. It was a matter about circling out. I think I did good by the circling, taking not really the brunt of the punches. It's all about the movement and being able to move away from a punch, rolling with the punches. stuff like that. So definitely movement helped me. And once we advanced, he obviously wanted to shoot for the takedown, which he did have a pretty good takedown. I'll give him that. But once he went into that position, like I'd said prior to the fight, he plays a very loose jiu-jitsu game, being a Brazilian black belt and everything else. So I looked to take advantage of that and standing back up. When we stood up, he obviously caught me with an uppercut or two. It's going to happen. You have to give something to get something, and then every so often, that opportunity presents itself. So it's time to take advantage. Once I did that, I realized you're not going to take me down once I'm on the fence. That's for sure. Widen out the base, drop the hips back. And sort of just create a little bit of space. Once I did that, I think he got sort of comfortable thinking he was just going to be able to overpower me and take me down. So he sat down there and tried to get a breather real quick. When he did that, that's when I think the fight changed. I hit him with that uppercut. It didn't look like, for a lot of people, they didn't see it as a real hard hit. But like I tell them, you're a professional boxer. The power in your hands when you put a 4-ounce glove on is out of this world. And so when I hit him in the mouth there, he was trying to get some breath, and that's when I knocked out his 2 front teeth, and I think that just changed a lot of the momentum, and he realized, holy hell, not only can this guy hit hard, but he just knocked out my teeth.
Yeah, the fight definitely seemed to disappear from him after taking that punch. I think he signalled, didn't he, as well? He either signalled to the corner or signalled to the ref, but he was gone at that point, wasn't he? He was mentally out of the fight at that point, I think.
Right. I definitely think it definitely broke him. He did look at the referee and took out his mouthpiece. You've seen one of his teeth drop out, and I think that changes a man a little bit when you realize, like, holy hell, this just got serious. You just took my teeth out. That's going to be forever.
Yeah, this shit just got real, as they say.
Yeah, right. This shit just got real.
Oh, right. I won't talk about the final yet, because I know that got coming up. But I'd like to go a little bit into your background and find out a little bit about you before Bellator. Now, you've been fighting MMA since 2006. You talked a little bit about the boxing. So, what got you fighting? What made you want to go into mixed martial arts?
I've been in love with martial arts my entire life. Philosophies, the discipline, the honor, respect, everything that is involved in martial arts is just something growing up. It really helped to mold me as a man. I grew up with a single mom, one sister, and there wasn't a lot of, my dad's influence in my life. So for me, martial arts was my father. It was something that helped me to guide myself and to make myself into the best person that I could be. After, I moved through life. Went to school, obviously in high school I wrestled, played football, was always an athlete. I got out of school, did a little bit of semi-pro football. I was an amateur bodybuilder, but it really wasn't what I wanted to do. I knew I didn't really want to play professional football. It's just too much politics for me. And so it was just about finding my path. So I went in to watch one buddy do a mixed martial arts fight and support him that I wrestled with. And after going out to that, he was like, hey, man, it'd be great cardio. I remember obviously from my wrestling days how great the cardio is. So he says, come on out and try it for your upcoming competition, which I started in October. I had a competition in November, and I said, yeah, let's give it a shot. I went in for one day. I fell in love. It just was absolutely everything I wanted in my life. I go, I can make a career out of this. I can be the best in the world at this, and this is exactly what I want. And so 2.5 years later, I was an industrial electrician as well at the time. So 2.5 years later, I quit my job and decided to go full-time fighting and make it, live my dream, basically.
So obviously it's obviously worked out well because you put the hard work in. Now, before you signed with Bellator, obviously you fought on some of your local events, and you fought obviously in the smaller shows before you went to Bellator. Now, before you joined Bellator, can you tell us what some of your favourite fights were, or a particular favourite fight or win before Bellator?
Favorite of mine?
Yeah, before Bellator though, not including any of your Bellator fights.
Right. Some of the better fights. I mean, on the local scene, that was definitely one thing, but having the opportunity to do a little bit of the traveling, the whole best part about fighting is being able to see the world. It's your ticket to travel around, have different cultural experiences, and meet different people and stuff like that. So some of the best fights that I had were definitely when I traveled up to Utah. I think that's the first one. No, actually, I went to Aruba before that. I did an 8-man tournament one day in Aruba, and that was an absolute blast. It was paradise. Had a great time, beautiful scenery, beautiful people. Just went out and got the experience of fighting more than one time in one night, and that changed me a lot as a fighter, and that contributes a lot to understanding where your heart is, because it takes a lot to go in there, finish a fight, and then you're all amped up, then you're down, and then all of a sudden you got to be amped back up and get back out there and fight again. So that was one of them. Then we traveled down after that, went down to Utah to fight Utah's champion, which ended up being a draw, but it was an absolute great experience going out there and creating a larger fan base, expanding your brand and whatnot. But probably the best one I had was the first one where I got to fight one of the UFC Ultimate Fighter House guys, Dave Newborn, down there in Puerto Rico. And going into that fight, he was all, a bigger name. He was trying to get back in the UFC, stuff like that. We finished him out in the first round knockout, and that was a great, great experience for me.
Now, moving forward, we're moving forward to 2010. You're 15-3-1, and you're picked up by Bellator. How did it come about that you were picked up by Bellator?
My manager called me one day and he says, I got an opportunity for you. I don't know if you want to take it because Bellator's offered you an ability to sign on with them as an alternate for their light heavyweight tournament. If you're not chosen as an alternate, you just sort of sit there and you might get a fight here or there, but you're under contract for, the set term, so there's no guarantees that you'll be able to fight anywhere else, and it was a bit of a gamble. And I go, you know what, this is that door opening finally, because, obviously at that time I had quite a few fights, just looking for that next step. And with everything happening the way that it did, it definitely gave, opened that door. I told my manager, I was like, all I need is room to get my pinky toe in, and I'll definitely make quite a bit of moves on the scene. So obviously we came out in the debut with Bellator on the light heavyweight tournament with the inverted triangle, and it went from nobody knew who Rich Hale was to overnight. Well, I wouldn't call myself a celebrity, but an overnight sensation maybe.
I was going to ask you about that. Right, the door's been open for you. You've got your pinky toe in. Now you need to make an impression on your first fight. So what's the way to do it? We've probably only seen this move used. I only really remember it being seen used once, which was obviously in Bellator with the guys that were probably half your size. And then you pull off an inverted triangle choke while the guy's standing. Can you talk us through how did you even see the move? How did you?
To be perfectly honest with you, man, I watched the move the night before thrown by Toby Amata at the weigh-ins, and our game plan going into that fight was definitely we wanted to win by KO. We wanted to go out there and make an impression with the hands, show the boxing and everything else. But, if Fiketti had some good takedowns, he got me down on the ground. But it's like I said in the pre-fight, if it does go to the ground, he's a wrestler. All he's going to be able to do is lay on me for 3 seconds. Then he has to do something. What's he going to choose to do? Every wrestler loves to be in side control, and they like to try to TKO you. So I was like, in the opportunity, I never thought, I thought about that move the entire night because that's just the way my mind works with my jiu-jitsu. So I went to bed dreaming about the inverted triangle, to be perfectly honest. And then, so the next day, it was one of those things. I was like, wow, one of my escapes that I do as a heavyweight, nobody expects you to be flexible and athletic. So I usually throw over, sink hooks in and try to pull out that way, because a lot of wrestlers have very heavy control in that side control position and don't want to let you have your normal basic escapes. So I went to throw it. I just happened to see the opportunity. You went to lift up for that punch, and I was like, perfect opportunity to drop the leg and head. That's, basic jiu-jitsu, just it's positioning and controlling and then moving about your transitions. So once I did that, and I was utterly shocked. I'm like, this guy's standing up with me. And then my body just sort of went into autopilot from everything I was thinking the night before, and sunk in the inverted triangle. And at that point, I was like, okay, well, what else did he do? I was like, oh, yeah, the leg. I'm like, well, I don't want to get dropped on my head, so I better grab a hold of his leg. If I could stick to his leg, I have less of an opportunity to get slammed on my head. Did just that, and once I squeezed it, locked it down, and at that point, when I pulled up to hit him in the ribs, and then my hand bounced off his ribs, that's when I was like, this guy's out. He's out cold.
It was just absolutely amazing. It was amazing when we saw it the first time, but then to see it again with a bigger guy, it was just completely unexpected. Now, I know Patrick's eager to jump in, so I just want to ask you one last question before Patrick jumps in. Can you explain to me your decision on moving from light heavyweight up to heavyweight?
Yeah, absolutely. I've known it was something for a while. I'm a very stubborn person, but my boxing coach has been telling me for a long time. He's like, you need to move up. You're a natural heavy. You're not a small guy. That's a huge cut for you, especially now with the tournament style. We went through the first tournament with Bellator. I had some very hellacious cuts. As you could see, my skill set fall off in that first tournament, going into a decision in the second round and obviously losing in the finals. That hurt a little bit, but I was too stubborn. I said, I could do it again. I want this belt. I want my redemption against Mpumbu. So after doing that, and obviously I fought that fight prior to the tournament, going into that first round of the tournament and getting that close, having everything on point as far as weight cut goes. It was no different from any of the other weight cuts. It wasn't extremely hard in the beginning. Everything was coming off nicely. I woke up the morning before with an easy cut. It just was not, I was 212 pounds. I only had to cut 6 pounds off. I was like, this is no problem. I woke up at 7 a.m. I sat from 7 a.m. till 3 p.m. in the sauna trying to cut that weight. Ended up still being 2 pounds over, not sweating, body completely shut down. And at that point, I was like, no, this is not worth it. I have a little girl. I'm a father before I'm anything else. And it's time to make the move.
No, I think it was obviously the right move to make because we've seen people become quite ill from not doing the cuts properly. I know Patrick's eager to go. So are you good to go, Patrick?
Yeah, I'm real ready. Thanks, Ray, and thanks again for coming on, Rich. We really appreciate your time.
Oh, for sure, guys. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime. Now let me ask. I know Ray said he wouldn't bring up the finals, but I have to. I got to ask. Cole Conrad, he recently retired and vacated the Bellator Heavyweight Championship. So the final, you're fighting Attila Veg. Will that be for the Bellator Heavyweight Championship? Do you know?
I'm actually fighting Alexander Volkov.
Oh, gosh, I'm terribly sorry. I don't know where that came from. Yeah, Volkov. He just came off of the win over Quiroz.
Right. Correct. And sorry, what was your question? Well, you said would it be for the belt?
Yeah. Do you know how they're going to determine the next Bellator Heavyweight Championship?
I honestly do not know. They said that they were going to possibly do it at the end of this tournament, but they also had the other option that they were going to wait it out and give out the belt after they run another tournament and have the two tournament winners fight each other. But to me, just from a business standpoint, and it's not my business, obviously, and not to say anything on what they should do because I'm definitely not their boss, they're mine. But, it makes sense to have a champion. You're moving over to Spike and you're going to have a vacant title. When you have a vacant title, it's still a tournament. It basically turns this tournament into almost the inaugural tournament, being that they've only had one tournament prior and there's no other champions besides Prindle, who was in this tournament and obviously lost in the first round. I think, that's just my personal opinion, but giving him an opportunity after that whole long stuff that happened with Santos does not seem like a real smart business choice. So it seems like they want to wait out and do the next tournament and have us fight off. But like I was saying, it seems to have more sense to me to have a champion that entire time because no matter what, we're still going to have to fight after that next tournament, and the winner of that fight would still become champion. So to me, he goes, you might as well have a champion in the meantime.
Yeah, I'd certainly be inclined to agree with that, especially like you said, the first heavyweight title defense or title fight would still end up coming on Spike TV, which is I'm sure something they're looking to do with that extended coverage Bellator is going to get. And are you looking forward to that, the move from MTV2 to Spike for Bellator?
Oh, absolutely. The platform's been laid with Spike. Obviously, with the UFC being on there, there's a huge fan base. I think that once we switch over, they're going to realize, wow, Bellator is on the same level as the UFC. The fighters are just as good, in some cases, if not better, and they put out just as good of shows and everything else. So I think it's going to be a great platform, especially for the fighters and for the sport of mixed martial arts to now bring in a competitor for the UFC. I know UFC wants to more or less have a hold on all the stuff and be the mainstream one, and they're the big name when you ask people about fighting, and they say, oh, UFC fighting, and no, it's mixed martial arts, but yeah, you get it. And I think it's going to be great to have a competitor for the fighters, for the athletes. It's going to be the biggest thing because it's going to bring in better purses. It's going to be bringing better just all around better fans and having a little bit of rivalry and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Probably some better sponsorship dollars for the guys as well, which I know that'll definitely help during the training, get you through that.
Oh, absolutely. Sponsorships huge in MMA. Sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, quite all right. Yeah, I know that's a big part of the trainer's pay. So it's good that you guys will be getting that recognition and hopefully getting that extra compensation. Now, continuing on with Bellator, you've fought in 2 Bellator tournaments. You reached 2 tournament finals. Is there anything you took away from the last tournament? I know you're not going to be cutting weight this time, so that'll obviously help. But is there anything you took away from the last tournament that will, you think, help carry you to victory against Volkov?
Yes, absolutely. There's one thing to have a loss, but when you lose a championship fight, when you lose like that just that feeling in general, I've lost 4 times in my career, and it's been probably the 4 hardest things I've ever gone through, because losing is never an easy feat. You definitely learn a lot more from your losses, but it's a tough thing to go through. So for me, you're going into these finals, it's proving to myself, why I belong here, why, my goal is to be the best in the world, and this is the next step. So it's about not letting it slip between your fingers, going out there, putting it on, the absolute best fight that you can. If you lose, you want to lose when you can give everything you can. It was very tough. It's a loss against Mpumu, going into the fight feeling at about, 50% of my abilities just because of the cut. So now I get to come in 100%, feeling exactly where I need to be, and go out there and just, to display my skills and prove why I, deserve to be a champion.
Yeah, absolutely. And I gotta say, since your jump back up to heavyweight, it seems like you're really re-energized. I noticed it in your pre-fight interview with Santos. It seemed like just a rare breed with a lot more energy, and just that fire was there. It was quite tangible. So is that a part of the success too? Just feeling comfortable at your natural heavyweight?
I'll be perfectly honest with you, man. It's definitely feeling comfortable at your weight, but it's more so with the thing with Santos is he ran his mouth quite a bit. So again, he hit that nerve with me. So I mean, I'm always excited to fight. Like I said, about martial arts, it's always about respect and honor and everything else. But to have a guy out, come out there and basically blow smoke up everybody's ass, I took it as sort of, like insulting, especially to the people, my fans and the audience that, I'm there to entertain, because the guy, goes, oh, he's going to knock me out and this and that. I'm like, when has he ever really knocked anybody out in his career? I'm like, just tell people what you're going to do. You're going to hit me. You're going to try to take me to the ground. You're going to try to get to my back and Renee can choke me. That's what you do. That's your game plan. I'd rather a guy be straight up front, honest, whatever else. And, aside from him just badmouthing boxing and stuff like that. So for me, I'm very passionate about the sport. I'm passionate about my dreams and making everything come true. So for me, it's shining through. After the loss in the last tournament, I actually went through a divorce and everything else. So there's a lot of things in my life. I wouldn't say like hit rock bottom on a bad level, or no drugs or alcohol, stuff like that. But it hit the bottom with financially. It was tight. This is my full-time job and not getting those things. So the reality to me was, anything can happen at any given time, especially after missing that weight cut. It could have been an opportunity to never have been in this heavyweight tournament. So I'm thankful for that opportunity, because, I'm clearly taking advantage of it. And, it feels great to go out there and do everything that I say I'm going to do and want to do and prove, hey, I'm here to stay.
Yeah, and you certainly have been taking advantage of it, especially this heavyweight tournament. You've really shown some great stuff. Now, Ray asked a little bit about your favorite non-Bellator victory. So I got to ask about your favorite Bellator victory. If you had to choose, I mean, obviously your debut against Nick Fichetti. I mean, when I close my eyes, I can still see his head bouncing off the canvas from being choked unconscious with that inverted triangle. That was just insane. I mean, and you had the great comeback and a great knockout over Santos. And I got to say too, that shot, I mean, those did look very hard. It looked like you had him. You hit him with a solid uppercut, and then it looked like an overhand right, which just kind of caught him in the temple. I mean, those were solid shots. I think
right.
It was one of those ones. It was just so quick. It was almost imperceptible.
Right.
But if you had to choose, of course, you also had your 1 minute knockout over UFC veteran Mike Wessel. Are there any Bellator fights that are your favorite?
Yeah, this is going to sound extremely ironic, but honestly, my favorite fight was the one with Mpumu. It's the one that I learned the most about myself, and I didn't come out victorious, but because of that fight, you guys now get to see Rare Breed in full throttle. I came out in the following fight, knocked the guy out in 18 seconds. Fight following that, knocked out Josh Byrne in 38 seconds. Following that, knocking out Wessel. Well, that's great that, he fought in the UFC and everything else. I think it did a lot for the fans to understand just because you fight in the UFC doesn't make you the baddest man on the planet. But for me, it definitely was the Mpumu fight because it triggered the switch inside my head and turned my job back into fun. It did definitely get a little business because of that weight cut. It got grueling. It was hard to going and doing the job every day. Typical people go to their job. There's a lot of people that don't like what they do and whatever else, but there's a lot of people that go through and go, hey man, this is a tough job. This is a lot it's difficult at times and whatever else. So for me, it brought all of my fire back to come back and really just say, you know what, guys, a lot of people, came down on you, and I go, hey, look at it now. I'm 6-1 in Bellator as a Bellator fighter, and just coming back and saying, the only guy I lost to was a champion. I think that's a large,
You there, Rich?
It looks like we've lost Rich. We'll see if we can get Rich back.
True.
Hi, Rich. Are you still there?
Yep. You there?
Hey, sorry. It sounded, yeah, we can hear you now. It sounded like we had a little technical difficulty there.
Someone sent a text message through, so I think it chopped my speaker off, so I apologize.
Oh, okay. Oh, no, quite all right. Hey, I'm doing the Skype on the mobile as well, so I know how it can be. Yeah, that's amazing answer though. It really is kind of one of those instances. I know we've talked to certain people. It's like it's almost like losing on the Ultimate Fighter, but then they get brought back and they have a better career after that than if they would have won. Is that kind of how you look at it? It might have been a setback, but now it's kind of a blessing in disguise.
Absolutely, man. Everything happens for in life for a reason, in my opinion. And and there was a different path for me, and obviously that's at heavyweight. I've went into heavyweight now, 4 or 5 fights, or whatever else, but I'm undefeated as the heavyweight. You know what I mean? I think that says a lot. That's a huge thing. A lot of people look at the record and go, yeah, but you lost here, you did this, and I go, yeah, but now on national television with the organization of Bellator, I'm undefeated as a heavyweight.
Yeah, that's got to be great to say, and great to show the fans. Now, what is the rare breed like pre-fight? When you're backstage, are you getting amped up, or are you trying to get calm and get centered? What's your mind state like?
I'm calm and centered, man. That's if I'm in the middle of a great book, I take my book with me, throw my headphones on, go to my place, go to in my head. There's a lot to do with me personally, with just clearing the mind and realizing your job at hand. I'm real big into meditation and just staying focused. So for me, it's just having a good book to read, or just having some good tunes, relax, kick back, throw up my legs, take a nap, wake me up and let's fight.
Awesome. Well, I know you're in the middle of training for the big fight, so we don't want to take up too much of your time, but we certainly appreciate, again, you coming on and taking the time to chat with us. If you got any sponsors you want to shout out, any friends, you want to let people know how to follow you on Twitter or Facebook, please feel free.
Oh, definitely, man. The biggest one's going to be follow me on Twitter. You guys are going to be able to see a lot of my sponsorships, a lot of the great support I have behind myself and the fans and friends that I have on there. You can catch me at Rich Rarebreed for Twitter. Outside of that, just a big shout out to, one of the biggest guys that makes things happen. That's my boxing coach, Kelly Davis. He's the man behind those hands and why I have the abilities and the power that I have today with them. Outside of that, big shout out to my strength and conditioning coach, Jake Terrence, my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu coach, Edward Sanchez, Sanchez BJJ. Other than that, give a shout out to Dan Ligori, the guy that does my sponsorships, my manager, Rudy Baez, out to the sponsors, Gamma Labs, Lexani Wheels, Jersey Pump, Future Legend, which is pulled on it, supplements. There's a lot of big things happening, big things coming up with Gamma Labs too. You guys, keep an eye on it. But the biggest thing I can tell you is check it out on Twitter, and I appreciate everybody's support, and definitely you guys have me on.
Just before we let you go, Rich, I just want to ask you one last question. It's a general question, but I'm interested in getting your view because I think it affects you. Obviously, we've seen you fight at 205 and we've seen you fight at heavyweight. Do you think that you personally would benefit from a middle division, like a 235 weight limit division, and would you like to see that happen?
I would actually. We talked about that a lot, and I think it would bring a lot of fighters that are in that middle ground into a weight class, like a 225 or somewhere in there, where you're still able to come in and fight, but you're not. It's obviously you've shown that you could take on the guys, with a quote unquote heavyweight monsters that cut to 265, but with it being such a wide open weight class, I think it definitely would be one more thing to add on all levels to bring in, some of the better fights. You're going to have a lot more athletic guys in shape, going out there cracking with the power of heavyweights, but, not having, a big sloppy guy trying to lay on you.
That's my kind of view as well, and I just I was interested to hear what your take was on it. I want to just say a massive thank you for coming on to today's show, and me and Patrick wish you both all the luck for this heavyweight fight, and we think you're going to be the next Bellator heavyweight champion or tournament champion anyway.
Right. Well, thank you guys very much. I greatly appreciate it. You're very welcome. Like I said, man, I appreciate it just as much as you guys do, giving me the opportunity to come on here, let my voice be heard, and work on building that brand, man. It's greatly appreciated.
Cool, and we'll definitely love to get you back on again in the future. Maybe after the fight and before you launch over to Spike, we can speak to you again, or in the new year. Absolutely, guys, man. You have my number, and you guys know how to contact me, via Twitter or even now over Skype. So just feel free to hit me up whenever. And it's a pleasure. Thank you very much, Rich. Speak to you soon, mate.
Thanks a lot, Rich.
Yes, have a good one. Bye.